Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode one. I purchased a microphone for this, like an actual podcast microphone, so we'll see how this goes. So basically, I'm going to talk about my personal experience in the Canadian military, observations I have made mostly about different things that could be changed or terrible things that are in place, or just the general chaos and tomfoolery of the Canadian military and how it pertains to us. Episode one will be a failure of leadership within the Canadian Armed Forces, and then I'll break it down episode by episode, and each episode will be different about something different that I've seen within the military, such as training, Canadian military interaction with the public, so on and so forth. So let's start off by saying that having leadership is an honor and a privilege to have soldiers or anyone work for you, right? With that honor and privilege comes some responsibilities. And the first responsibility you should have is taking care of your soldiers. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen very often in the Canadian Armed Forces, right? We have a failure of leadership top down, starting with the Prime Minister of Canada, the Governor General of Canada, the CDS, and the VCDS. CDS is Chief of Defence Staff and Vice Chief of Defence Staff. You might know the Vice Chief of Defence Staff. At the time, his name was Norman. He was the naval fella who got brought up on charges and such, like for basically telling the public that soldiers were getting screwed out or screwed over by our procurement of new ships. That's another episode that's going to take place, will be about procurement and the supply system within the Canadian Armed Forces, because it is a mess. It is a mess, but we'll get into that in another episode. Right now we're just talking about leadership. So there has been a failure of leadership from the top down. Okay, the Prime Minister of Canada, all right, has done blackface on numerous occasions. He has been brought up on numerous charges or complaints, or it's just a failure of leadership from the Prime Minister. This isn't a political thing. I want to stick mostly with the military until we talk about the military and the government and the relation between the two in another episode. But right now we won't talk too much about the Prime Minister, just given that it's a different subject. I'd say it's politics. The Canadian military actually doesn't even fall under the Prime Minister's control. I don't know if most people are aware of that. The Canadian military actually reports directly to the Governor General. The CDS reports to the Governor General. The Governor General is the Commander-in-Chief of the military. At any point in time, they can order the military to remove the current government if they are corrupt or tyrannical. Now, the issue is our last Governor General, right? And this is the failure of leadership from that Governor General. That Governor General was removed from office, removed from power, simply because, I shouldn't say simply because, but because she was abusing her subordinates. She was creating a toxic workplace environment. I'm sure there's other stuff that came along with it, but it was an abuse of leadership, an abuse of power. That is a failure of leadership. You were harassing your people. You were toxic to them. They couldn't even trust you. They couldn't trust you, so they turned on you and they reported you to the public or to who needed to hear. Failure of leadership. If you do not have a failure of leadership, you would still be the Governor General of Canada. It's that simple. But as you are the Commander-in-Chief of the Canadian military, all officers, all soldiers are supposed to be looking to you for an example, and you are harassing and toxic towards your employees. What does that say to leadership in the military, what they can get away with? Okay. The Chief of Defence Staff, all right, was General Jonathan Vance. I don't consider whoever the Chief of Defence Staff is now as the Chief of Defence Staff. The actual Chief of Defence Staff is General Jonathan Vance. When he first showed up, we were very excited. Everyone was very excited. I believe he was a student of Rick Hillier, who's possibly one of the greatest Chief of Defence Staffs that ever lived. The Big Cod was his name, or his nickname. So everyone had high hopes for General Vance. I had friends who served under him when he was a company commander in Afghanistan, and they said he was a stellar officer. He was amazing. When he first came out, I remember I was at a military appreciation hockey game, Ottawa Senators, Toronto, a bunch of places will do that. So we got some free tickets, and we're sitting up in the nosebleeds where they like to keep us heathens so that we're not causing any trouble for the civilians down below, which they still were a little bit screwed up from us being there. But basically, they introduced the new CDS, Johnny Vance, that day, right? So he comes out onto the arena, and this man was like a rock star, right? And I think he was trying to show everyone, like, the control he had over soldiers. He comes out, and I remember the announcer, he was like a wrestling announcer. He's like, introducing for the first time, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Johnny Vance. And he came out, arms up like a rock star in his dress uniform, looking good with all his medals. Yeah! And the whole crowd of soldiers, there was at least 10,000 of us there, maybe a bit less, right? Because you had some reservists coming in, you had some Petawawa guys, you had some this, you had from all over the place, right? Everyone starts going, stomping their feet. Boom, boom, boom. Johnny, Johnny, right? And then he silenced us just by moving his hands, right? That was it. We thought he was amazing. One of his first things he did when he came into the scene was he did a speech, he did a press conference where he explained under no certain circumstances to the public that the Canadian Armed Forces was meant to close with and destroy the enemy. That's what we do. That is what the job was. He said humanitarian aid is a nice thing that we help you guys out with, and we're happy to do that. But you have to understand that the military is a fighting force. The whole purpose is to end the enemy. That is what the purpose of it is. And people forget about that. Now, right? So we all had high hopes from. That being said, it was after Justin Trudeau's first term in office. It was very shocking that when he got it was very shocking he got elected again, but it was also very shocking that when he got voted back in, he kept the same CDS, General Vance, because generally speaking, right, you'd get a new CDS when you come back in, but he kept the same CDS. Whatever, that's fine. And up until that point, the CDS hadn't done anything that was I would consider terrible or like screwing over the military or anything like that. Our training system had started to change towards what's called stability operations, or stab ops for short, and humanitarian aid, right? And these basically are vehicle checkpoints, right? So you can stop vehicles, search them, stuff like that. Presence patrols, right? Where you walk out and you make your presence known, people can talk to you and everything like that. All that kind of stuff, right? So these are our very stability operations. They're not really combat operations. Now, at the same time, while you're learning that, right, you also learn what to do if you get into combat, obviously, right? Because even if you're being peaceful, there could still be some people trying to attack you. So that started to change. But up until the point there where the second term came around, there hadn't been much difference. The training program had started, the training system had changed, and that's about it. He brought out some policies. His second time around, second time in office, we were like, okay, he did a pretty good job the first time. Let's keep him in as I guess he wants to keep him in as the CDS. I'm okay with that. Then he was given a raise of over $300,000, right? Okay. And that's when I was like, well, okay, let's see how this goes down. And then it all changed. Okay. Now, General Jonathan Vance has been removed from power for, he was being investigated for sexual harassment and breach of morals and ethics for his position, right? So failure of leadership. Now, let me acknowledge this really quickly, obviously, okay? You are innocent until proven guilty. That's in the military too. But the military doesn't like that. They're not a big fan of that, right? Innocent until proven guilty. In the military, it's more of a guilty till proven innocent thing, right? So you have to prove your innocence, and they'll still charge you with shit, even if it comes out that you didn't do anything wrong. They'll still charge you, because if you admitted to it and then it comes out you didn't do it, you still admitted to a crime, and they'll charge you. I've seen it. Anyone who tries to deny that, fine, but I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it happen on 2 separate occasions. I've sat in on the summary court trials, and I've seen it happen. Okay, that is a failure of leadership. Sorry, I know I got off topic there a bit. I'm talking about the CDS. Okay, the CDS started implementing new rules and stuff coming down. There were some good ones. Buy your own boots, they'll refund you. You're now allowed to have beards in the military. You're allowed to smoke weed in the military. That came out when weed was legalized, right? They came out with 3 can 4gens. They called them boots, blunts, and beards 4gens. Okay, everyone loved them. They were super happy. And then they started introducing new things. There were some rumors coming around that if you were a male and you want to identify as a woman, you could wear a female soldier's dress uniform. Now, a female soldier's dress uniform, by standard speaking, is usually a skirt, but they don't have to. They can wear pants. They can wear the same one the men do. You don't have to wear the skirt and stuff like that. Some do, some don't. That's your own choice. We don't care. However, he was advised not to. It came down later, but he was promising man buns, right? He was promising just taking us away from the military standard. This isn't even. I don't want to talk about the CDS as the failure of leadership in this. I want to talk about the lower ranks, the officers, like the officer corps, and how that is failure of leadership. I'm just pointing out that we have failure of leadership from the highest ranks down. The vice CDS was also picked up for sexual harassment and stuff like that. And then you had the guy that was in charge of the vaccine turnout, Danny Fortin. He got picked up for sexual harassment. All this stuff is coming out. Now, it looks suspicious as shit because all the officers that are high enough rank to actually do something about the tyrannical government, fine. I don't care what your suspicions are. I'm just saying, based off of soldiers looking up and seeing our CDS is now being charged with this, our vice CDS is being charged with this, our governor general is being charged with this, the entire high command of the Canadian military was wiped out efficiently within a month for crimes, terrible shit. What kind of leadership is that? Why do you expect us to continue being, I shouldn't say us, I'm a veteran now, I'm retired from the military, but why do you expect soldiers to uphold the highest standards and do the highest standard of job possible when you, as their leader, can't even uphold that standard? What kind of example are you setting? All right. So that's how we have a failure of leadership from the top down. I didn't go into too much detail because I more or less want to focus more on leadership failures within the military, like the units themselves. Okay. I'm about to now. The next part of this is I'm about to say something that's actually probably going to piss off mostly infanteers, I think. So if I got any infantry fellas listening, I apologize, but I'll explain myself. There is a saying in the military that is said constantly, consistently, it's constantly going, and the saying is mission first. For any of my civilian listeners who don't know what that means, or any new recruits who are listening to this who don't know what mission first means, but you've heard it. Mission first basically means it doesn't matter what comes up, you complete the mission. You're injured, complete the mission. You have some personal problems, you complete the mission, okay? All that stuff. Mission first, mission first, mission first. They pound it into you. Fuck that shit. It is a myth. That is not true. And I will tell you right now why that's not true. And this is my point of view, okay? This is how I see it. And you might see it the same way. How do you complete a mission if you do not have soldiers? It should be soldiers first, then mission. You cannot complete a mission unless it's an Air Force mission or it's like a strike or an artillery strike or something along those lines. But you cannot close with and destroy the enemy if you do not have soldiers to do it for you. You need foot soldiers. And I'm going to tell you something right now, because most people, especially civilians, will just be like, oh, well, you know, there's a rank structure. They'll just order them in. They have to do it anyways. Yeah, okay. If you've ever been at war or even on an exercise with an officer or somebody that no one respects or likes because they treat their soldiers like shit, you get no work from the soldiers. Your mission will fail because you treated your soldiers like garbage and they will not perform to their highest standards. They don't want to please you. Why would they want to please you? You don't do anything for them. Why would they want to please you? So, soldier first. Once again, infanteers are probably going to get pissed off at me for saying this. I know there's probably one or two that listen. Soldiers first, or else you can't complete the fucking mission. That simple. That simple. Okay? We're going to talk now. I think I've beaten that dead horse enough there. You can comment on this and yell at me about it, whatever. I'm sure I'm going to see a few people say, no, it's mission first, mission first. That's fine. But you can't have a mission if you don't have people to complete the mission for you. So you're going to go off by yourself there, Mr. Captain whatever, Captain America, Captain Canada. You're going to go off and complete the mission by yourself without your soldiers? No, you're not. Treat them better and they will do the mission for you. I had an officer who worked for me and he said it the one time. How did he say? I'm not going to say his name, but he was an RCR captain. And I was working for him and I asked him, I said, why are you so calm all the time? You know, there's people that nuts and you have the power to yell at them, do whatever you got to do, right? And he said, well, what do you win from that? You can treat your troops like garbage and they won't do anything for you. In fact, he said they might just shoot you in the back while you're overseas and then say it was the enemy or shoot you in the front. Like, he's like, or you could treat them well and show them a bit of common decency and human kindness and they'll love you that they will run towards the enemy without a second guess because they want to make sure that they complete the mission for you because they love you. It might sound manipulative, that's fine, but it's a fact. If you treat your soldiers well, they will treat you well and they will work well. Anyone who is in a leadership position who isn't a piece of garbage will openly agree with me on this one. Okay? Beaten enough of a dead horse in that. Let's talk about segregation of ranks. Okay? There are appropriate times for segregation of ranks and there are inappropriate times. Do not have a boys' club, right? Most units, most officers have it's a common phrase, a boys' club, right? The officers do their own thing. Okay, they have their own jokes, they have their own stuff, they do their own thing. A lot of officers won't even associate or acknowledge their ranks. It's just like, oh, good morning, sir. Yeah, whatever. Good morning. Yeah. And you never see them. You'll never see your platoon commander. You'll never see your company commander. You won't see them, which is fine. Okay, let's say, but come see your soldiers, right? I guess that's not really so much segregation of ranks. The main thing I want to get into is the segregation of ranks that has to exist is when officers are too friendly with their soldiers. Okay, there has to be a separation. Maybe segregation isn't the right word. A separation is the right word. There has to be a separation of the ranks. You can be friendly with your soldiers. You can get along with them. You can talk to them. You can joke with them. But when the time comes, you shouldn't be spending hours and hours upon hours with them. You shouldn't be going to their house and hanging out. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. You definitely shouldn't be sitting in the smoke pit talking shit about other soldiers to these soldiers. You shouldn't be sitting in the smoke pit talking shit about your soldiers and period to anyone. That is your shit you keep to yourself and the rest of your subordinates. The ones that can actually hear it. Your sergeants, your warrants, your master corporals, so on and so forth. You don't sit there and just talk shit. You don't do it. Right? There has to be a separation of ranks. You have to keep yourself away from go smoke in the same smoke pit, whatever. Do your thing, talk to your people while you're there. But don't go and sit in a vehicle bay and just shoot the shit with them for hours and hours and hours. They no longer look at you as an officer. They no longer look at you as their superior. They look at you as their friend. When I was a sergeant in charge of my platoon, I didn't hang out with my soldiers. I'd go out, I'd give them like orders. This is what you got to do. This is what you got to do. And then I'd walk out, right? And sometimes I would have to pass on more information, or I'd check in to see how they're doing. Hey guys, how's this job coming along? How's this? But you have lower ranks to go do that. As a sergeant, I had master corporals under me, right? And I always told the master corporals, I don't care. This is a quick going back to the mission first thing. I always told my master corporals, I don't care. I don't care if you're good at shooting. I don't care if you're good at nav. I don't care if you're good at any of those things. When it comes down to this, the one thing you will do as a master corporal is you will take care of your soldiers. I do not care. You will take care of your soldiers. Okay. So officers, there's a fine line you need to walk. And this fine line is you take care of your soldiers, you care about them, they see your face, they know you're there, they know your presence, they know they can rely on you. But you don't go have sleepovers with them, you don't go have bonfires, you don't go hang out, you don't go do this stuff. That's not a thing. You don't do that. That destroys the synergy, that destroys the work ethic of your soldiers. Because now, if you are trying to get them in shit, they have stuff on you. And if you honestly think privates and corporals aren't going to use whatever they can to weasel their way out of getting in shit when they could just throw an officer under the bus, they're going to do it. Most lower ranks don't like officers because of this separation, segregation. And on top of that, we don't like officers because half the time we feel like we don't even get recognized for what we do. We're just a number in the system to you and you're trying to get promoted. That's how we see it. Okay, so that's separation of ranks. Stop hanging out with your fucking soldiers, man. What are you doing? You got a private there calling you by your first name. I'm not saying anything specific, but anyone specific, but this is ridiculous. That should not be happening. That should not be happening. Know your soldiers, right? If you are a leader, you need to know your soldiers. How many times have I heard, well, I don't know. Why the fuck don't you know the status of your soldier? What is going on? Well, I don't know about their personal issues. Well, you should. Because if soldiers stop bringing you their personal issues, if they stop bringing you their problems, you have lost their trust and they have no faith in you. I'm pretty sure General Patton said that. As soon as a soldier stops bringing you their issues, you failed as a leader because they no longer trust you. I'm going to try to stay away from telling anecdotes, trying to stay away from telling first-hand stories, right? But fact of the matter is, as soon as a soldier no longer brings you their problems or their gripes or their issues or come to you with complaints, you have lost their faith in you. You have lost their faith in you as a leader. You have lost their faith in you as a fellow soldier. They have no respect for you anymore. They will respect the rank, but they will not respect the person. That's yes, master corporal, yes, sergeant, yes, more, whatever. But they don't give a fuck about you as a person. They don't want to talk to you. They literally do the bare minimum when it comes to interacting with you. This is what happens. You have to know your soldiers. You have to keep them informed. You have to take care of them. Take care of them. Leadership is an honor and a privilege. I've said this and I will say it again. It is an honor and a privilege. And if you can't handle it, get the fuck out of that position. Okay? And we're going to talk about that too. But if you can't handle it, get the fuck out of your position. It takes time to get to know your soldiers. It takes time to get to know their issues and so on and so forth. Okay? Officers, back off. NCMs, get in there and learn about your fucking soldiers. right? Care about them. Take care of them. It's that simple. Officers, that's not your job to take care of the soldiers. There's master corporals and the sergeants, the warrants. They will bring you the issues, and then you use your rank and your power to take care of that. That's how it works. But you don't go to, oh, tell me about your problems. They're not going to tell you about their problems. Anyways, know your soldiers. Keep them informed. Now we're going to talk about the bane of the Canadian military, okay? Promoting and posting. Holy shit, if you want a quick way to get rid of your trash, that's a fucking fast way to do it. Promoting and posting. So the Army has this, and I said it earlier, but the Army has this crazy thing, and it's their way of getting rid of trash. Okay, now so when you join the Army and you sign a contract, say you sign a 3 or 4 year, 5 year, whatever it is, okay, they can't fire you unless you commit a crime, right, or you're medically unfit to serve. And both those ways, right, are hard to get you out of the military. There's a whole process. Now, releasing from the military is pretty much junk, and it takes forever to do. They make you jump through hoops and all that good stuff. Now, however, I have seen the military release someone within 3 days. I've seen it because that person committed a crime, right? I'm not going to get into details about what it was, but it was of a sexual nature. And the military basically was like, court-martialed, goodbye, get out, right? And then they handed them over to civilian authorities and said, you fucking deal with this shit. We don't want to have to deal with this guy, right? But that was someone who was still going through the training system. Ironically, it was an officer who was going through the training system still, right? Anyways, generally speaking, though, if you have somebody who is due for promotion, which we'll get into in a second, that's bullshit. No one should ever be due for promotion. But when you have somebody who is, quote unquote, due for promotion, right? But they are what we like to call in the military, a bag of hammers. In other words, useless, right? You're just dragging you down, okay? Then what they'll do is they'll look around to all these other units and they'll be like, huh, this guy's getting promoted from corporal to master corporal. There's a master corporal position at this unit. We don't want him at our unit. Okay, cut a posting message, promote him, and send him over. Congratulations, you guys just got a master corporal like you required. But you got garbage. And then what happens is, instead of fixing this soldier and not promoting them, which they should do, they just let them continue on. And they're training more soldiers, or they're over there doing more things, screwing up more units instead of this unit taking responsibility for this garbage soldier and this terribly trained soldier who is not doing anything or is just bringing people down. Instead of focusing and being like, yo, we got to fix this, they just promote him and get rid of him. What does that do? What on earth does that do except pass around garbage leadership to new units? And this person who's getting promoted, it's hilarious because most people will see a promoted, like, posted person and be like, yo, that guy, yeah, he's clearly not that great, right? But the people that are getting promoted posted think they're the bee's knees, right? They are the Cottonelle of soldiers. They are tip top, the best. But in reality, they are the Cottonelle of soldiers. They're soft and weak, right? And they are putting them in charge of soldiers and also making them soft and weak. Or these soldiers are looking up to their master corporal or their sergeant and they're learning bad habits from this person because instead of us fixing the problem, we just put them on somebody else. It's ridiculous. And then there's other people who deserve promotion, but they can't get it because they're not close enough to oh, well, you've only been here for 2.5 years. You know, this guy's been here for 4, so we got to promote him. No. Promotion should be based off of merit, not time in. And that leads me into my next thing, which are given ranks versus earned ranks. Fun fact for anybody who's not in the military. To go from private to corporal, which is technically the first leadership position, because depending on your trade, you will be in a leadership position. I know for SIGs, you have your det commander course. When you're a corporal, you're in charge of a det. For infantry, I'm not sure. I don't think it's much of a leadership course, but it's the machine gun course, DP2 Alpha it's called. And then you have other courses, so on and so forth. You learn to be a det commander, you learn to do this. So it is the first leadership role. The only thing you need to be a corporal, right, is 4 years in the military. Hell, if you're out west, they'll promote you after 3 years. Advanced promotion. Most people get advanced promoted. Okay? That's ridiculous. There are privates who should not be in a leadership position. There are corporals who should not be in a master corporal position. And you've seen that. When I was on my PLQ, that's your course to become a master corporal, right? When I was on my PLQ, we had the future of leadership showing up. Okay? The future of leadership. These people were, don't get me wrong, not all of them. Okay, I'm generalizing here, but I could be very specific and say who list out and why and everything like that. One of the guys showed up and he was like 500 pounds. But he shows up to a leadership course that is high PT, high stress, high physical fitness, and he's like 400 or 500 pounds. The instructor even asked him, like, you knew you were coming on this course, right? What is going on? He's like, well, it's whatever. Came up with his excuses. Or there was another fella who failed after his 3 weeks because he didn't pass a single soft or hard assessment. Not one. He failed them all. They give you 2-3 chances, which, once again, stupid, shouldn't happen. This guy got kicked off after 3 weeks. Man, best part was he wasn't an instructor at one of the trade courses school. So what happens in the Canadian military, right? You go through basic training. And what used to happen was you went through what was called SQ if you were Army, which was soldier qualification. Now it's called BMQ land. They shortened it down. They made it only 21 days as opposed to, it was 2 months before, I think. But anyways, they only made it 21 days. So after that, you go on your trade course. So depending where you go, right? If you're infantry, you go Meaford, Wainwright, wherever. If you're engineer, you go up to Gagetown. If you're SIG, you go to Kingston. If you're medic, you go to Borden, so on and so forth. Like, that's where you do your training. So this fella, who's on my leadership course, or PLQ as it's called, is an instructor, or was an instructor, this is years ago, was an instructor at a trade school. And he failed his leadership course within 3 weeks. He didn't pass a single test, not even a practice test. He didn't pass any. And the instructors were like, well, are you guys working with him today? Yeah, he just won't accept help. Like, why would you send somebody like this onto a leadership course? Why would you allow somebody like that to teach at a school? And I'm going to get into detail about that too, because that's another fucking problem in our military, is we decide to send our shit garbage leaders to go teach on these courses. And then you produce shit garbage soldiers and shit garbage leaders because they are being taught by shit garbage leaders. Okay, Meaford, all right? Meaford is a base. It's a training area, training facility, whatever you want to call it, okay? That's where infantry sends all their guys. That's where PLQs go. That's where the infantry goes to do their battle school, which, by the way, is a pretty badass name. To any of my infanteers that are listening, shout out to you on that. Battle school is a sick name. I actually really like that. I've always liked that. I'm not in the military anymore, so I can say it, and you guys can say I sound weird, but whatever. Battle school is a cool name. But anyways, okay? So what they'll do is, now let me be very specific here. Unless you requested specifically to get posted to a school, generally if you're posted to like a training facility, you're not the best. They tend to send their shit there. I'm using me for an example just because it's easy to pick on. But it's the same thing. I use that PLQ guy as an example there. He was an instructor at a school, not Meaford. It was in Kingston. And he failed his leadership course within 3 weeks. Okay? What is that? Common sense dictates if you want good soldiers, send good instructors. If you have bad instructors, fix them and make them good instructors, or don't let them be instructors in the first place. It's that simple. It's that simple. I think given ranks is garbage and should disappear. I think every rank should be earned. And that goes double for officers. Officers go to RMC, the majority, okay? Not all of them do, but the majority of officers go to RMC, okay? RMC is a cesspool. It is disgusting. The majority of sexual harassment complaints that come out of the military is usually from RMC. I have a source at RMC who has been telling me that there has been hazing going on where they are stripping students down and forcing them to do things, crawling through the hallways and stuff, and RMC's covering it up, okay? Or there was 2 students who just got raped at RMC, and they're covering it up. This is where our officer corps comes from, is RMC, Royal Military College. It's actually a university. They call it a college because back in the day everything was colleges. But this is where the core of our officers come from. You have the odd ones that do ROTP, which is rank, I don't remember. ROTC is rank. Anyways, there's one where you can rank up. You can go through the ranks, right, which is very rare. And might I add, they make the best officers because they usually started as a private and worked their way up. Well, obviously they started as private and worked their way up, right? They usually make the best officers. Once again, not all of them, but the majority of them make the best officers. And then you have ones that can go through other college programs, right? You know, you go to Cambridge or you go to Conestoga or whatever, wherever you go, and then you get your degree, and then they'll make you an officer. But the majority of them go to RMC, and that's where officers get trained. And it is a cesspool, okay? It is disgusting what happens there. It is. There is hazing still. When the reports came out from Madame, whatever the fuckface name is, about sexual harassment in the military, okay? She went to RMC and she went to St. Jean, which is where we train our recruits. Those are the 2 places she went. She didn't go to any of the units. She went to those 2 places and came back. Sexual harassment is a thing in the military. Yeah, because you went to the recruit training center, which This isn't an excuse. Don't get me wrong. It shouldn't fucking happen ever, right? Once again, that comes back to fucking leadership and the honor. If you are a higher rank and you're taking advantage of a lower rank, you are a piece of shit. You are garbage, in my opinion. You are. It's that simple, okay? Listen, she went to RMC and she went to St. Jean, okay? It came back with scathing reports. Yes, I hate to break it to you, but RMC is a garbage cesspool place. It needs to be overhauled. It needs to be overrun. It needs to be something. Something has to be done there. Maybe a proper investigation. Maybe you stop covering up all these crimes. Maybe you actually listen to the victims who are coming forward and say, yo, this motherfucker is sexually harassing me. And they're just like, well, get over it. Or hey, can you remove him from this wing because he keeps coming into my room and won't leave me alone, or he's pulling my hair while we're standing in ranks? What is that garbage? And they start to, oh, just get over it, or don't get mad, just deal with it. Blah, blah, blah. You fucks, man. Why do you think we're getting such toxic officers coming out of RMC? Because you treat them like trash. And you tell them, on top of that, they tell these officers that they are God's gift to the army. They tell them, you will be the leader of soldiers, the leader of men. They will respect you. They will revere you. So they come out with a chip on their shoulder. Yeah, I'm an officer. And we're like, go fuck yourself. My boots have more time in than you do. You want to be fuck? Don't come in here and start shouting orders. Like, have you ever seen a 2LT or an LT go up to... second lieutenant or lieutenant, the two lowest officer ranks, go up to a warrant officer and try to tell him what to do? He might make suggestions. The warrant officer, which is one of the higher NCM ranks, or sergeant, could be a sergeant major rate, the warrant officer could be like, yeah, that's not happening, sir. I've personally seen it. I had an LT tell us we're doing a kit inspection. He's like, yeah, we got to do a full kit inspection. And the warrant officer's like, yeah, can I talk to you for a second, sir? Takes him out of the classroom. He's like, there's no fucking way that's happening. Why are we doing a full kit inspection? What's the purpose? Are we going on exercise? No. What's the purpose? That's not happening, sir. Officer comes back in. Yeah, it's not happening anymore. Okay, guys? Like, you are creating a problem here. You are telling officers that they are God's gift to the military, and they haven't earned their stripes. They haven't earned shit. I don't care if you have a commission from the Queen. That doesn't make you a good soldier. That doesn't make you a good officer. That doesn't make you shit. That means some old lady in England was able to say, and it's not even her, it's from the Governor General, who we all know is corrupt anyways. The last one was. Who knows about this new one? Okay? It doesn't make you a leader. It doesn't make you good. You need to earn it. Okay? You go and you show your soldiers that you can lead them. And most of you have never even been in a combat zone. Most of you have never even been on tour. And you're coming around here acting like you're king shit. Man, I have seen soldiers tell me that they're like, oh, I'm the best and the best. And they brag on workup training to go overseas. I couldn't find the motherfucker the entire tour. How do you disappear overseas and you're not dead? How does that happen? We couldn't find him for anything. And he was actually in charge of some special shit. But all he did was brag about how he used to be a PPCLI Pickley soldier. And then I talked to some of my friends who worked with him at the Pickleys. Oh yeah, this guy was garbage, man. That's why he left. And then he goes overseas bragging about how he used to be infantry. And you couldn't find the guy. He was hidden. He was gone. And he was in charge of soldiers. I had to take over his soldiers. They handed them to me because this guy couldn't be found. Oh, was he? They gave me half his jobs too because the guy couldn't be found to do his work. Insane. Absolutely insane. Most of you have no experience and you come in acting like you have experience. There's a saying, never trust a lieutenant when he says, I learned this at RMC. Yeah, okay. What did you learn at RMC? Nothing. You learned to put a chip on your shoulder and think you're great shit while everyone else around, like, it's ridiculous. Investigate RMC. Send in civilian investigators to RMC. Send in people who aren't biased. Send in people who won't try to hide the shit. Fucking do it. That place is a cesspool. I got sources out of there telling me all this stuff. And no one's Anyways, doesn't matter. It does matter. But what I'm saying is RMC's garbage. Okay? And these are who's training our officers. Is this cesspool. This cesspool. Okay? And they come out like it's insane. Lead by example. Lead by example. What are you doing? There's a saying in the army. It goes, do as I say, not as I do. What? Hypocrisy at its finest. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay. Or how about do as I do, right? Maybe you could live up to your own fucking standards that you're having for your soldiers and implement that same care and commitment that they follow the rules to you instead of just breaking them whenever you want. Oh, it's okay because I'm this rank. Whatever. You corrupt pieces of shit. And you know what? That happens all the time in the military. I don't care what anyone says. It does, man. You'll have I'm like, listen, I'm trying to focus on leadership on this one, but it's really hard not to stray into other categories, right? Because they all kind of mix in together and pertain to each other. But I promise I will get into more detail on different things. I just wanted to get leadership out of the way because it's the first thing. And honestly, everything in the military can change if the leadership just got their shit together and they got motivated. They could change it. They could easily. All you have to do is say no. We're doing it this way. You got enough people doing it, it will happen. Okay. But you're afraid. As a leader, you can't be afraid of people above you. You have to be willing to put your own career on the line for your soldiers' careers and for their lives. When it comes down to it, even if it seems like the smallest, simplest action where you're telling someone, leave my soldiers alone, they can't do this, right? We don't have enough people, which happens all the time, right? Leaders, any officer listening to this, prove to me you're not a pussy. Do it. Y'all are pussies. All of you. And you know what? Most NCMs are too. Most NCOs. Y'all are pussies. You won't even fucking stand up to people for your soldiers. I've seen it. Right? I got attacked because you know how many times they tried, well, I shouldn't say they tried to charge me. You know how many times I had someone come in and jack me up, screaming, I can't believe you do this. I'm like, yeah? Well, here's the policy. So you're breaking it now, right? And you're not treating my soldiers the way I like and the way they should be treated. So how about you fuck off out my office? Okay? Like, lead by example. Lead by example. Your soldiers see what you do. They know you're lying. They know you're little. You think you want to treat them like mushrooms and hide them in the dark and feed them shit, but they're little flowers and they're going towards the sunlight, okay? And they see your bullshit fucking whatever you're doing, man. Like you can't hide it from them. I don't care if you think you're all special and oh, I'm an officer. No, you can't hide it. Okay, you can't. We see it. We see it and we know and we don't respect you for it. Lead by example. If you tell me to do something, you better as shit be doing the same thing. If you say that I have to do this and you're not doing that, fuck you. No, lead by example. That's why in the Canadian military they implemented, if you are punishing soldiers physically, like doing push-ups and stuff like that, you have to do them with them. You have to do them with them. Or else you're going to have some fat fuck instructors just standing there while these guys are doing push-ups. It's bullshit. Okay? Lead by example. That's it. It's that simple. Do what you say you're going to do. It's that simple. Okay? Don't tell people to do one thing and then you go do the other. It's hypocrisy. I've beaten a dead horse enough with that one. Lead by example. Okay? Blame shifting. A good leader takes 90% of the blame when it comes to shit. Always. 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 Doesn't matter if your soldier's fucked up, right? And you can pinpoint who did it. You take, you know what? I should have watched over that. You don't let anyone else come down on your soldiers. They go through you, right? They go through you. If someone's screaming at your soldiers for no reason, unless they did something like right at that moment and they're disciplining them in the moment, fine. But if someone comes down to scream at your soldiers, you step in the way. You get in the fucking way and you say, why are you trying to scream at my soldiers? What's going on here? Right? Talk to me. You don't go and you don't yell at my soldiers without my permission, okay? Blame shifting is a thing. You have to take 90% of the blame, okay? You're a leader. Take 90% of the blame and take 0% of the credit. Okay? When you're in trouble, 90% of the... No, maybe it's 100% of the blame. Take 100% of the blame. Fuck it. And then deal with it afterwards. Deal with your soldiers afterwards. Yeah, I'm going to change that. You take 100% of the blame and then you go and deal with your soldier afterwards. Okay? But you take 0% of the credit. Absolutely 0% of the credit. You would have achieved nothing without your soldiers. As an officer sitting there doing nothing... Like, what are you going to achieve? You LT captain, what are you going to achieve? Okay, guys, let's empty a sea can. Guys, you're not emptying that sea can, especially not by yourself. No, you don't want to break a fingernail or something. You got to, you got to stay. You got to be good. Okay? So, blame shifting, you shift the blame onto your soldiers, they're not going to work for you. It's that simple. Take the blame and take 0% of the credit. Something good happens, comes out of your office, you fucking say, my soldiers worked their asses off and they did this. Nice. Good job to them. That's right. I'll pass on the kudos. Oh, and if you get emails or anything saying that, like, this soldier did a good job, fucking let them know. Let them know, man. You know how much that means to a soldier when we were all, anyone that's listening to this, you all been private, corporate, whatever. You know how shitty it is when you're doing a good job and you're busting your ass and they're just, and you're watching all the accolades go to the officer. Wow, man, your platoon's really getting this done. Your platoon's really getting this done. Good job. And he's like, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, we're doing amazing. And meanwhile, the soldier's sitting there like, are you fucking kidding me? I just busted my ass for days for this fucktard? Yeah, sorry. I know there's a lot of swearing in this. I apologize. Not really, though. I don't care. You can listen if you don't want to. You can listen or whatever. All right. Blame shifting. Don't do it. You take the blame. Take it and zero credit. Okay. I already talked about lack of tour experience, but that's a big thing in the Canadian military, right? We have Afghanistan. We had guys coming from there teaching new soldiers, right? Now what? Who's teaching who? They don't. Most of the Afghan vets got out because they're being fucking treated like garbage, right? You've seen it all over the news. Okay, most of them got out. So now what do we have? We have some people who have tour experience. We have some people who don't, right? And then you'll have someone who's in charge of a bunch of people who's never been overseas, and then someone of the same rank as them who's not in charge of people because they stepped on some toes or something, or they told someone to fuck off, or they stood up, and they've been overseas like 3 or 4 times. Like, this doesn't make sense, right? We need tour experience. Stop, and that's not really a like no one's fault, really. Like, and that's kind of more the military and stuff like that, and the government where they want to send you. But as it stands, if you're going to put people in positions of power, maybe you should take people with the best experience and not just shit that's written on paper saying, oh yeah, you passed this course, good for you. Maybe you should take someone who's actually been there and done that and seen it and experienced it and can actually tell these soldiers, hey man, this is what I experienced, this is what I've seen. The soldiers will respect you more. But if you take some fucking person who's been on 100 exercises and never been overseas, it's like, oh, I know how it works. Yeah, you know how it works in a scenario-based system. You know how it works when it's scripted. You don't know how it works when the enemy is playing fuck games with you all night. You don't. Good luck with that one, though. But you bring your RMC experience there. Okay, yeah. Lack of cohesion is another big one. All right, it causes there's division. That's not really a leadership problem, but what I've seen. All right, and I'm going to give a tour example here. So when I was in the sandbox, all the drama that happened, minus the odd little thing where someone wasn't doing their job and we sorted it out, but all the drama that happened in the FOB was literally the officers. Literally officers. They would sit in the smoke pit and talk shit about each other 24/7. Seriously. All the time. All the time. And you got corporals, master corporals and shit sitting there being like, what the fuck? Like, just talking shit about each other. I can't believe this. And then, or you'd have 2 officers sitting there talking shit about someone, or 3 talking about their plans, doing all this stuff, just sitting there talking about it. And you're like, guys, there has to be cohesion here. What are you showing? You're in a war zone, for fuck's sakes. Why aren't you getting along? Figure it out. Argue when you get home. But these privates and corporals are watching you guys. They're watching you. And they're seeing you bicker like old women, like a married couple, right? And then you're talking shit about the fucking commanding officer of the FOB. You're talking shit about this person. What the fuck? And then I have to have a conversation with them. And I'm sitting there remembering everything you just said in my head. Like, what are you doing? Okay? There has to be cohesion. Put aside your fucking differences for the 6, 7, 8 months you're overseas. Put them aside or avoid each other unless it's in a professional sense. Like, guys, stop it. You're literally... And that comes down to my final main pet peeve with leadership in the military, because I feel like that's a good transaction into it, or transition into it. Okay. Do not speak ill of your soldiers. Do not. You do not shit talk your soldiers to other soldiers. You do not shit talk your soldiers to other leadership. You do not shit talk. Think of them like your kids. They're your kids. You take care of them, you raise them, you teach them, you keep them safe, and you get them to do things for you once in a while. Kids do chores, right? You don't talk shit about your family. You don't talk shit about your soldiers, especially not in a public forum where there's other people around, or that soldier could just be around the corner or anything like that. You don't go into a smoke pit and talk shit about your soldiers. You don't go here and talk shit about your soldiers. You don't joke around. You don't do this. You don't do that. You do not do that. Show some loyalty. Show some decorum, for fuck's sakes. Just because you're not around them doesn't mean you can't respect them and protect them. It's a 24/7 job. I don't know how many times I got phone calls in the middle of the night from a soldier who did something stupid, being like, yo man, I really messed up, I need help. And I'd go get them, or I'd go bail them out of jail. Or one guy had his house broken into and fucking he ended up beating the dude up with punched the dude out and dragged him out of the house and threw him on the lawn. And the cops just so happened to be breaking up a fucking house party down the road and saw him dragging a body out of his house. So they instantly think this guy just killed the dude, right? So they come over and tackle him. And he's trying to explain, no, this guy broke in. Like, he broke into my house. I just knocked him out because he hit me with a hockey stick, and now I'm taking him out of the house. Like, I got that phone call at 3 a.m. Being like, hey, man, I might be late for work tomorrow. I'm like, oh, what happened? Well, and he explains it. Okay? That's fine. Don't speak ill of your soldiers, all right? Or else they won't trust you. They don't care about you. I never told anyone about that. I mean, I'm telling you now, but I'm not saying the person's name. Right? I never told anyone about that incident. I told my direct boss, clearly because he needs to know why the soldier was going to be late for work that day, right? But I never, why would I talk shit? And I mean, granted, that's a pretty badass story. Like, it's nothing to talk shit about. But don't speak ill of your soldiers. Why would you do that? Do you speak ill of your friends when they're not around? Because if you do, they're not your actual friends. You know that? If you talk shit about your friends that you won't say to their face, then they're not your friends. Just like your soldiers. If you talk shit about them that you won't say to their face, then you're not their leader. You're not a leader. You are abusing your power. You're abusing it. And it's disgusting. Right? Lack of leadership in the Canadian Armed Forces is rampant from the top down. We have blackface Trudeau all the way down to RMC, where it starts, the cesspool of garbage, RMC, and then they send shit officers and they send shit master corporals and sergeants to go teach on these other courses, and now we're raising a generation of soldiers who are weak, soft, right? This is the first episode, guys. This is about leadership. I got tons coming. I'm going to talk about training. I'm going to talk about everything I can, okay? This is the first episode. Leadership in the military is garbage right now. I've maybe worked for 4 or 5 good officers in my lifetime. 4 or 5. My commanding officer over in the sandbox was phenomenal. I held every single other officer to her standard. Seriously, I did. Every single officer, I held it to her standard. And they were all found lacking. They were all found wanting. Every officer I served for after her were all found wanting. Yeah. So let's fix the leadership, and then the rest will get fixed. But let's start with leadership, okay? Stop fucking lifting these officers up while they're at RMC after you broke them down and fucking stripped them. Like, what? But seriously, look into RMC. Someone needs to investigate RMC. It's a cesspool. Anyways, that's all for now. Take care.